Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike. And before you get too sucked into this awesome interview, do us both a favor and like, subscribe, and share this amazing piece of entertainment because I am here with the one, the only, Carson!
Hello, everyone.
How you doing there, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. Just adjusting to life outside of school now. It's scary.
You don't have homework to do. What does one do with free time?
Yeah, no, it's weird not having to worry about assignments constantly and just having more time to schedule things now.
Yeah, now you don't have to worry about assignments, you just have to worry about taxes and rent.
Oh, yeah.
It's like adult homework.
Yep.
So before we get too carried away talking about the rigmarole that is life outside of school, what's your favorite dad joke?
My favorite dad joke is, what do you call a fake noodle? An impasta.
No! Wouldn't have ever got that in 1,000 years. Phew. Glad you're here to solve that mystery. You have a favorite underutilized word?
Favorite underutilized word, kerfuffle. I think it's a weird sounding word, and I want to hear it used in sentences more.
Totally. The best to me when looking this up to write it down was the spelling of it is just as fun as it sounds.
I'll be honest.
Kerfuffle.
I'll be honest. I wasn't even sure how to spell it. I just know the word,
Yeah.
and I don't think I've ever seen it written down anywhere.
I spelled it. I looked it up in Google, and it Google gave me the side eye when I wrote it out phonetically. It was like, "Is this what you mean?" I was like, "Yeah." Google, calm down. But with the attitude, just chillax a little bit.
Man, sometimes autocorrect sucks.
Well, I just love when you spell a word so wrong, and just Google gets it for you.
Mhm.
And then there's the times where you're a letter off, and Google thinks you're in a completely different realm of space. You just spell a word, and it's like, is this what you meant? Like, no. Why would I ever think to no? It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah,
especially when it's in a sentence.
I don't
Just
understand that. It's like I've gotten words where it's just like, oh, I'm only a sentence, one letter off, and it's like, how, I don't understand.
There was one the other day in autocorrect, so it's not technically Google,
Mhm.
but I am using I am using Android OS, so I put it in the same kind of genre. But I spelled a word correctly, pressed space, and it changed it to a word that didn't fit in the sentence and was 3 letters different. It's like, what? And I clicked back on it. It's like, is this what you gave you the 3 options? Were these what you were looking for? It's like, yeah, the word I literally typed out, because I did it letter by letter. I didn't do the swooping, drawing the letters together on your keypad on your phone.
Uh-huh.
I literally just did one letter at a time, and then it pressed space. And it was like, I know where you're going with this. That doesn't work for every reason.
My phone does the
Why
exact
would you
same
change
thing.
that?
Where it's like I'll do a completely normal sentence and it just warps it into some weird mismatch.
Yeah. It's like, I know where you're headed. You're like, you don't. You really should stop pretending like you do. The weird one for me is when I spell every time, when I spell the word that, THAT, and then press space, it changes it to TH, 5 A's, and then a T.
Huh.
I have never spelled that like that or anything close. So I don't know why it constantly keeps doing that, thinking that I'm some spastic circus director introducing the new act. And are you ready for that? Pointing at an elephant with a cannon on its back.
The
It's
one
so weird.
the one that I always get is that I always accidentally press 9 when I'm trying to put in 0, and because I've done it so much, my phone has just gotten used to it, and it will do if I'm trying to say 2, it'll do T9. I'm like, all right. And there's no way for me to reset it, I think, so it's just I always have to watch out for that.
The weird one for me, and this is a mispress, and it drives me nuts, is anytime I try to press M on my phone, it's right next to the backspace key. And with the backspace key, especially if you're doing swipe texting like I am, where you're drawing a line connecting the letters, and then the next one you press is M, but instead you press the backspace key since you did all that word at once, if you press the backspace key next to it,
Mhm.
it erases the whole entire word. And the amount of times that happens to me is just like, and then I undo it and redo it. You'd think the phone would like give me a second because I'm always trying to swipe in the next word. It's just like,
Uh-huh.
if it just gave me a second and realized I meant M, both of our lives would be so much better.
My phone actually, I have the opposite problem where I'll be trying to hit the backspace key and I just keep pressing L over and over again, and I don't realize it until I'm like, wait a second, ah, damn it. So I have to
La, 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 la,
yep,
la, la. Oh, no, that's not what I meant.
so going back through all that.
Well, cell phones aside, Carson, what is your biggest everyday temptation?
Biggest everyday temptation, to not do anything and just play video games all day. Like now that I'm out of school, I'm like, all right, I can have more time. I have more time to do stuff. It's like, no, I don't. I'm supposed to be responsible now.
What video game has been calling your name most recently?
I've been playing Rainbow Six Siege a lot recently. I enjoy the more tactical gameplay of it instead of just running around shooting everything. Like you have to actually kind of think about where you're going on the map.
Boo. I just want to run around and shoot things and not think about anything.
I mean, yeah, that's fun too, but it's like after a while, I gotta take a break from that.
What movie will you never skip when channel surfing? Or, just cycling through YouTube or Netflix?
The first Predator movie.
Oh, yeah.
I actually rewatched that a couple days ago, and I always forget how much of like the first half of the movie is very like 80s cheesy action movie with all the one-liners and stuff, and then
Oh,
it
yeah.
shifts to the alien stuff, and it's just like,
Yeah, it's two movies.
yeah,
It's
it's
great.
two different movies. It's like because like when you watch the Alien movie, that's all pretty much consistently the same tone throughout the entire thing, but like for
Yeah.
Predator, it's like, all right, here you go, here's your action movie. And then, oh, now you're in a sci-fi movie. I'm like, oh, all right, cool.
So great. It's classic Arnold at his best, and then just rompy alien fanfare at also its best.
Yeah,
All in the same movie. It's just tremendous.
I think
Dylan! Just like I can hear that line a million times.
I have a friend named Dylan, and every time I see him, I occasionally do that.
It's the same with me whenever I see my friend Aaron. I just call him Aaron,
Oh God,
even though his name is not spelled with two A's.
I think I've only ever seen Aaron's with the Aaron spelling.
There's also the Erin, and there's one more, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, his is the Erin.
Mhm.
And it's like, hey, Aaron. He's like, like he's initially for the first couple times I did that, he's like, that's not how you spell my name. It's like, I know, I don't care. It has nothing to do with the meme, buddy. Growing up, what was your favorite book?
Favorite book?
Yeah, pages, letters,
Yes.
reading.
Reading. I don't know if comic books really count because those were where I was reading for when I was younger.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
like
There's words.
I read a lot of Batman, Red Hood comics for a longest amount of time. When I got older, I think for actual book, I started reading Altered Carbon. Have you ever seen that one? They did a
I did see that one. How was so both of those got turned into one of those, you said the Red Hood that's the one that got turned into a, like I don't want to say a short film, but it definitely isn't like feature length, right? It's like an hour.
for Under the Red Hood.
Yeah.
They did a animated film that's I think probably like an hour or 30 minutes or something. It was pretty good.
How was that one? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty
That
good.
one-
The voice acting was good. That's why
Yeah, I mean,
everyone
they
wants.
had,
That's why everyone wants Jensen Ackles to play Red Hood and everything now because he did the voice for that. But yeah,
well, and also you had a really fun turn for the person playing the Joker was the same guy that played Bender and Jake the dog. So, whose name now just
I always
completely
forget his
escapes
name.
me. Even
I know who. Yeah, they forget his name all the time.
John DiMaggio, I think
Yes,
it is.
that.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. He's fantastic.
I think the weirdest
But like
the weirdest thing about that one though is Neil Patrick Harris as Nightwing. That one.
Oh, I didn't even
strange.
know that.
Yeah,
That is bizarre.
I mean it works in the film, but it's
Yeah.
just like
No, I mean like
it wasn't who I was expecting. All right.
yeah. I think that's a perfect showing of that it works. Is that I had no idea,
Yeah.
and I've watched way too much How I Met Your Mother, and I still have no idea that that was him.
Yeah.
What was your take on Altered Carbon from book to screen?
Um, very different. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. There's a lot of things that they've changed, like the whole envoy thing that he isn't really like a rebellion that they put it in the Netflix show. It was more of a
Mm.
military, like special ops group kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
And then obviously they do the changing some characters around, moving them around.
Hmm.
His whole romance with that, I think Quel'Thes Falconer wasn't really in the first book, at least not
Mm.
that I remember. But yeah, and then they also blended some stuff from the other two Altered Carbon books with the
Mm.
the series.
Would you say you prefer the book more than the series, or vice versa? Or are they just too different to really kind of compare in that regard?
I really liked the first season of the Netflix show. That's the reason why I got into the series. I remember watching it. I
Mm.
thought like this is amazing. Um, did not like the second season very much, and then yeah, I think it's just a little different.
Hmm.
Like I gotta finish reading like the last two books, but yeah.
Cool. Now I'm going to put you under a hard test here, bud.
Okay.
If you had to evacuate your house, what's the first non-living thing you'd grab and rescue to safety?
Probably my computer because I need that for work and doing all my art stuff. So yeah, probably my computer. I guess
Hoist it up, strap it to your back, and run out.
yeah, it would also be like the easiest thing to grab because it's like I guess the largest thing. So
Okay. Yeah.
instead of having to grab all these
Laptop
other things,
or is this a
uh,
laptop or is this a tower?
it's a tower, but it's built into the screen too. It's a Microsoft Surface,
Oh, cool.
so it's like really unplugging it would be pretty fast, and I just grab that and go.
Yeah. And you don't have to like for me if I was to take out my computer, I would take my tower, but then I'd have to leave like
The
my
monitor,
monitors and all that biz behind, which I mean
yeah, the important thing is the
wouldn't be that
tower.
hard to replace. Yeah, the most important thing is the tower
Yeah.
for sure. Do me a favor, clear your mind. Now, what comes to mind when I say the word underrated?
Tron Legacy. The
Why is that?
um, I remember when it came out, just like no, I mean it was like 2010, 2011, I think,
Hmm.
and I remember no one else at the time that I knew really liked the movie, and I don't know why. I'm a huge fan of it. I have like a picture of Tron Legacy on my wall right here, and the
Hmm.
music in it was great by Daft Punk. It just I
Yeah.
don't know. It seems like every time I talk about it or I talked about it, no one really liked it that much. Like I like the visual style of it a lot. I like the music in it. I thought it was a really good movie, but yeah, no one else really. Yeah.
I do remember the soundtrack,
Mhm.
and the visuals were pretty tight. I could not tell you too much about the story, sadly.
Yeah. I actually just got the soundtrack on vinyl. It took me 10 years to find that thing. Yeah.
You have to go in like a back alley and like shank some other collector over it to like run away with it,
Uh,
like a la noir style.
I would have had to if they didn't start releasing it in stores recently. It's like
Whew!
that thing was being
Thankfully for
sold
that
on
other guy in
eBay.
the back alley.
Yeah, that thing was being sold on eBay for like $100 plus dollars. I'm like, I don't want to spend $100
Good
on a
lord.
record.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hey,
That's
they
insane.
started releasing it on Target now, like this last month. Like, oh, sweet, finally, I don't have to murder people anymore.
What's your favorite industry secret or term that's only used in your line of work?
Um, so I do some animation. I went to school for that, and one of the terms that I thought was really important was drawing on twos, which
Mm.
uh was a lifesaver for me for when I had to do my projects. Because like, oh, I could lessen half the work. I don't have to draw every fucking frame of this like 17,000 frame project.
Unless you're trying to make Akira 2.
Yeah, like it's you could do frame by frame if you want to be really detailed, but for some of the school stuff, I was like, I have a time limit. I'm working by myself. I gotta
Yeah.
get this done. It's like, oh, draw on twos. All right, sweet. Makes it a
I
lot
mean,
easier.
also, like, it almost makes it sound like you're cheaping it. Almost all animation is done on twos. Like it's
Yeah,
or
and
even threes.
it's real common.
Like like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was done on twos and threes. It wasn't even just done on twos. They did it. I mean, it was an aesthetic choice, but they did
Hmm.
it on twos and threes for
Yeah,
differing scene. For like, I think it splits. I think it's half the movie is done on, or a large amount of the movie is done on threes, and then it changes to twos, or it might be twos and then changes to threes.
that's
But it's for an aesthetic choice. When he puts on the spider suit, it changes from twos to threes. I don't remember which direction.
yeah, that's the thing about like also spacing out the frames of when you're doing animations that it really changes the pacing and tone of it. Like
Yeah.
it might seem like a small thing when it's just looking at like, oh, it's only one or two more one or two less pictures out of this 1,000 frame project, but you notice it.
Hmm. Yeah. It's got a very different feel to it.
Hmm.
Is there a piece of advice you've been told over the years that has made a big impact or that you find yourself pondering even to this day?
Um, for me, it was to not judge my own work as harshly as I do. Like I
Mm.
have a really big problem with like thinking my art and stuff isn't that good.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I got into like college where I was taking these classes with other people trying to get into my field that I was like, oh, okay, maybe my stuff isn't that bad. I'm looking at everyone else's like, okay, yeah, I'm about the
Yeah.
same. I'm about the same level as people my age or like at like the same progress. So it's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think yeah, just like not being as harsh on my own stuff was one of the things. And I still struggle with it, but I'm getting better at it. I'm getting more confident with my art.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really hard to not be your own worst critic
Yeah.
because, like, if you're not, I don't know about you, but when I find myself, I'm very binary in the way I approach my work to my own detriment, which is
Mhm.
either I go full, full like droopy mode. I'm just like, you're the worst. Like, just like I hate my own work. It's all garbage. Why am I even doing that? Everybody else is better than me.
Yeah.
Or I do the opposite, which is a different kind of bad, which is I'm the best. You all are so just unworthy of being in my presence. It's just like completely garbage.
Yeah.
Like approach of just being like this, yeah, this, like
I mean
thinking I'm so much better than the rest of the world.
the false confidence boost does help sometimes. I've done it myself. I'm like, all right, I'm amazing. This is great.
Yeah,
And that gives me the motivation to actually like put the thing that I did out there. But
yeah,
yeah, like I have the same problem where I'm very perfectionist, and when I draw stuff, I'll think like, oh, this isn't good enough. This isn't good enough. This isn't good enough. But I was like,
hmm,
yeah, it's okay. It's fine. I just gotta
yeah. It's good.
get off my ass about it.
Yeah, it is like one of the hardest things to find that middle ground where you like are inspired enough by your own work to continue doing it, show people and put it out there and have the confidence to be like, yeah, this is good. You should look at it.
Yeah,
Versus, but also be humble enough to realize, people's critique has, that
it has its
they're
value.
looking to help you as much as they are to like kind of help you remold your work and
Yeah.
like that their opinion is valid simultaneously or as well as your like work also being good, which is like the hardest thing of like hearing criticism, remembering that your work is good but also needs to be changed. It's like the most catch 22 of artistry I've found anyway.
Yeah. Another problem was that I spent a lot of time comparing myself to like artists I'd see online who obviously have had more years of experience,
Slight head start. Yeah.
and I'm like, I want my stuff to
Why
look
am
like
I more
this.
not like Da Vinci?
Yeah, it's
I
like
don't
I want
understand.
my stuff to look like this artist. Why doesn't it look like
Yeah.
this? I hate it. And it's like, all right, take a step back. These guys have been doing this for how much longer than you? You're
Hmm.
doing fine. It really was
Yeah.
just like getting getting in the situation where I saw people who were my age or like my
Hmm.
process of the job uh, journey, I guess. That I was like, okay, so for where I'm at now, I'm about equal to some of the people that I'm with.
Yeah.
That's fine. But yeah, it was just a matter of not comparing myself to like these great artists that I see all the time.
Totally. Given the opportunity, what is your favorite personal anecdote to tell?
Personal anecdote. So I was at my cousin's house one time. This is years ago. I'm not even sure if he remembers this. But like I was messing around on his computer and he was just kind of sitting on his bed and I had noticed a fly start going around the room. I was like, okay, whatever. And he starts trying to like hit the fly, and he's doing this for like maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And
Hmm.
eventually, I see the fly land on the window next to me, and the window's open. There's a screen door, or the screen's up, and the
Okay.
fly's on there. And I'm like, okay, it's just gonna be there, or whatever. And next thing I know, my cousin full force flies through the window because he tried to get the fly, not realizing that the window's gonna give out, and he went through the window into a rose bush. And I'm like, what just happened? Like I had to, I was just sitting there for a second staring at him like, you okay? I, I like, what did you do? Why did you jump out the window? Like, luckily he was on the first floor, so he didn't like get in
Yeah.
serious harm. But it's just like this is something that you see in like a slapstick cartoon.
I was gonna say I was really hoping that after this happened, did the fly just like come back into the
It did.
room just like
It
casually?
did.
It did.
It did. I very much
Ah,
remember the
so
fly just being in the room
full
still
cartoon
afterwards.
style. Yeah, that's awesome.
After he busted the window frame right off. Like, okay, you're
Ass over
have have fun explaining
tea
this to the
kettle
family.
into rose bush. That's so awesome.
Yeah,
Oh man. Wow.
I really want to. I gotta ask him if he still remembers that happening because that was just like that happened maybe like I don't know 5 years ago, and it's still very clear in my mind.
Have you ever thought about animating that little ditty?
I could. I really could.
That that would be I would pay top dollar to see that animated
Yeah.
if it's anything like what's roaming around in my mind right now. Oh boy.
Yeah,
That's
it was
tremendous.
and no one else in the house knew about it too. So it was just like because I wonder how he explained how the window came
Yeah.
off to anyone else. Like, did it just
And
pop
how he's now
off suddenly?
scratched up like he just got in a fight with a cat.
Yeah,
Rose bushes aren't exactly the most forgiving of vegetation.
he did have the like window frame between him and the rose bush, so he was. It could
He
have been
wasn't
worse. It could have been
too
a lot
wrapped.
worse.
Yeah.
And like he was still like kind of partially hanging through the actual window itself, so I was able to pull him back in. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome. What's your favorite little known factoid?
Uh, so for a little known fact, I play D&D, and at one point I decided like, you know what, I want to make a sword out of blood, and so just one night I decided to do the math to like figure out how much human blood do you need to make a sword out of iron, or like make the sword out of the iron and the blood, and I for a while I was doing calculations like how much blood is in a human, yada yada yada, and doing all this, and I realized like I could just look this up online probably. I don't need to do the math for this. So I looked it up, and to make enough iron from blood, you need to get about like 64,749.9 grams of blood, and that's you got to kill a lot of people to do it. Don't recommend actually ever trying to do this. Just want to put that out there as a disclaimer. I'm not promoting murder or genocide.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
how many peeps got to go for you to get that sweet, sweet blade?
According to the study I found, it was 16,188 people. In perspective of that, it is uh, about half of how many people died in the bubonic plague in 1625 London. So it's a lot of people. So if you ever do want to say, "Hey, I want to make a sword out of blood," don't do it. You can't achieve it. Like it
The
would,
cops will catch you first.
the cops will catch you first. Yeah. Like I don't even think I did it in D&D or anything. The only reason why I was gonna do was like, oh, dwarves have more iron in their blood. I was like, okay, there's a cop out. I could just do that. But yeah,
Don't have to kill that many of them. They're
yeah, it's
just
just
dwarves. Who cares?
half that amount, which is still a lot. But yeah,
Still turns out it's a lot.
but yeah.
All right, fill in the blank for me. This weekend was so great. I spent 13 hours
I spent 13 hours taking a nap because I'm getting used to sleeping again.
Do you like when you nap, do you like to do it what is your general increment? It like if you're going about like a normal day. Are you a 2 hour napper, 4 hour napper, half hour napper? Like what's your preferred regimen? Or do you just lie down and when you like get back up is when you get back up?
Uh, Pretty much, yeah. Just when I get back up is what happens. Um, yeah, because of my final thing of school, I was staying up till like 3 a.m. constantly,
Mm,
and I've been just trying to readjust my sleep schedule.
yeah. Do you find that problematic when you're just like sleeping for large amounts haphazardly throughout the day that like it makes it harder to go back to bed at like a set time to kind of keep that like rhythm, or is that not an issue for you?
Depends on how exhausted I already am. Because
Hmm.
sometimes I'm so tired where it just doesn't matter, and then sometimes
Eh?
it's just I could stay up later. I try to coordinate it between like if I have to do stuff the next day, if I can afford to sleep in more. But yeah.
That's cool. You bringing up napping makes is making me yawn and want to take a nap myself.
I,
But instead, we're going to continue with this interview. Can you think of the first most impactful memory of when you realized you weren't so alone in your struggle as a human? Or maybe like when where you were like everybody else more than you had realized previously?
um, that's kind of hard because like I have had a long history of medical problems,
Hmm.
and a lot of like I'm like 22 and my entire torso is covered in like scars, like more than a normal
Dude.
person would. And
Yep.
it's just like for a long time I was like, this is really like I'm kind of weird because I have all this stuff going on with me that none of my friends have to go through.
Yeah.
But like eventually, like, I see people like I saw the other kids in the hospital. I'm like, okay, there's more people who are going through stuff too. It's not just me. I'm not some weird abomination kind of thing. But yeah, I guess that. I mean, it's still kind of weird talking to my friends about some of the stuff where like, oh, I have to go do this medical stuff, and they're like, oh, okay, well, hope you're feeling better. It's like,
Yeah.
what can you say to some people like that?
Hmm.
Yeah,
But it's kind of cool that you're able to see and notice other people at the hospital with the similar regularity as yourself, that you weren't some like freak show, you know. It
yeah,
was no, this is a problem that affects more than just me.
yeah. Like that was the thing for the longest time where it's like some parts of my bar are so jacked up. It's like oh, this is gonna be weird to explain to just whoever. Like I remember whenever we were like in PE and stuff, like we had to go like swimming in the pool. I'm like, I don't want to take my shirt
Oh
off.
yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
show them all this. But I was like, all right, that's fine. And then eventually I realized that scars are cool. So let's
Yeah,
go. That's
exactly.
badass. I remember,
Take it off with that heroic vigor, just like ooh.
yeah, I remember making up a story of one of the ways I got some of my scars. I got like in a fight with a raccoon camping, and it mauled me. So I was like, I can have fun with this. I could find
I
things to do about it.
I respect your lack of showmanship there.
Yeah,
And you didn't go full, you didn't go too big. You just kept it at raccoon. You didn't go like bear or, like
yeah,
a bobcat or anything like that. You're like, no, no, no. They're not going to buy that.
yeah.
Gotta keep it realistic.
Attacked by a raccoon.
Is there a moment that you look back on in your life that fills your chest with pride or brings a tear of joy to your eye?
Um, I think honestly, just the fact that I've been going on this long, like again with the whole medical thing, where it's like, I don't know, it could always get worse. Like I remember, my senior year of high school, I ended up having like some big tumor in my liver, and I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to deal with this? Like, am I gonna get cancer? Am I gonna die now? And then
Hmm.
it came out the next year. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I completed high school. I have a liver. It's like, it's just that. I guess yeah, like being able to complete all this stuff that I've done in my life, like going to school and all this stuff, with
Hmm.
all my medical problems, is kind of what makes me proud.
Totally.
And like, because I could be completely depressed about it, feeling like, oh, there's I have all this stuff going on with me. What am I gonna do? Life sucks, but I'm pretty good on my outlook on life, I guess.
That's rad,
Yeah.
man. Is there like a technical term for like what you're afflicted with, or is it just like a grab bag of lame?
I got a lot of stuff going on, like some of it unrelated. So, like my biggest thing is I have Crohn's disease. That's my main one. But
What's that one?
Crohn's disease, it's a inflammatory bowel thing. Uh, yeah, some stuff through your innards that I don't really want to get into, or it's gonna be a lot to
Totally.
explain. And then there was the liver tumor, and then I've had to have surgery on both my ears, and it's just a lot of stuff. I was born with like all my guts hanging outside my stomach. They just push them back in. I'm not joking. I have a picture
No, I
of me
know.
as a child where
It's so absurdly lame that it's just kind of hilarious. Like
yeah,
it's hilarious in this like morbid sort of way. It's like what
yeah.
the fuck?
It's like that. That's the one of the things. Like I have a very morbid sense of humor because of all this stuff. I'm like, I've gone through all this. I can joke about it now.
Yeah,
But yeah,
helps gives you that perspective. That's really good.
yeah. It's like I feel like being able to joke about it is the best way, honestly, for me.
Oh, totally. Like it's when you can't joke about it that usually it's either like so bad that like start writing a will,
Hmm.
or it's like you're going to make it worse by not being able to joke about it.
Yeah,
Like from what I've read, from what I've seen, and the people I've talked to, it seems that the people that live the best life, regardless of circumstance, are the ones that can find the humor in everything,
yeah,
especially when their world is at their worst.
yeah. It's helped me realize that some problems aren't as big as they seem at the time. It's
Yeah.
like it does put things in perspective. There is still that like kind of grim sense in the back of my head where it's like, oh, you could get cancer sooner. You have all this other like you have all these increased chances of doing this and like getting all this
Hmm.
because of what you've been through. And that's in the back of my head. Like I've already told some of my friends before, like I don't expect to live as long as you guys. So I don't know. But yeah, just like
Do you ever jokingly tell them you're gonna have to go to my funeral? I'm not gonna have to go to yours.
oh yeah, no, I've done that all the time. Or it's like, hey, if I die, hey, put my ashes in like some urn somewhere and throw it into the ocean, like stuff like that. Like I've joked about that all the time with them. So it's like it's I don't know, it's like coping mechanisms, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I had a friend whose grandmother would joke about that every time she was around, and
Mhm.
she found so much hilarity in that. It made the situation so much better because she was from the time that had like met her, she had been afflicted
Mhm.
with something. I don't know. It's like too young to remember if anybody told me, but she she very much joked about it to the hilarious and high-fiving of her grandson, my good friend, but the kind of despair of her daughter and my friend's mother,
Yeah.
just like, all right, gotta go to my funeral, or like would make jokes about like what you're gonna have to do. She's putting it in her will, like she
Yeah.
found the way to make her dire circumstance funny, at least for her and her
Yeah,
grandson.
it's like,
Her daughter, not so much,
would you rather
but
everyone be depressed or
yeah.
just some of you be depressed, I guess? It's like
Exactly.
I'm gonna have fun with it.
Yeah. Might as well. Nobody's.
I know, yeah. The
It's
only
your
one getting
life. Live
hurt
the
here
best
is me because
way.
I'm the one who's gonna die.
Yeah, exactly. All right. And lastly, before we throw it to commercial break, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
I would say "Blood, Blood, Blood" by the Creep Show. I just remember hearing it.
Catchy title.
Yeah, yeah, that is the title. I just remember hearing it from I think it was like Borderlands 3 or something, and they had that in the end credits, and I
Mm,
just thought it was a really good song that went well with the theme of the DLC that I was in.
yeah. I listened to it before this just to make sure it fit with the oeuvre that is the show.
Yeah,
General listeners out there, don't worry, it's not as horrifying as the title and band name make it out to be.
I think if it's what we've been talking about, though, you know,
No, yeah,
turning
but
turning
I
humans into
think
swords.
yeah, Yeah, but I don't know. Like the song itself is very beautiful,
Yeah,
and like yeah, the subject matter to it is a bit on the darker side. But when I hear "Blood, Blood, Blood" by the Creepshow, I expect some Slipknot
yeah,
style like ruckus. But no, it's very. I find it very musically pleasing and beautiful. So,
yeah.
and with that, we're gonna throw it to our first break. Feel free to stick around and enjoy this totally real commercial, or take a minute to enjoy the fantastic "Blood, Blood, Blood" by the Creepshow. Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify. Passionate People and Preposterous Peeps podcast song Rex. Long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a jiffy. Do you ever find yourself sitting around with an emptiness inside your soul or larger than preferred vacuous space? Would you like to change that? I thought so. Now introducing Stuff. For when you have nothing to do but important things. Stuff. For when you're lacking personality and intrigue. Stuff. When the world has taken a pickaxe-sized chunk out of your heart. Stuff. And if Stuff no longer fulfills these needs, please don't hesitate to look into our essence drain life-enhancing product, Addiction. And welcome back, everybody. I'm here with Carson. Carson, what is your passion?
My passion is character design, and environmental design too, by extension. I think honestly, good character design is more important than a good story in a game or a film, whatever. Because like you'll see a character and you'll think like, oh, that looks cool, without even really knowing what a story of it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Like going back to like Predator, I mentioned earlier. I saw that movie for the first time when I was like 6, and I thought the alien in that movie was so cool. I drew it all the time. It made me want to draw. It made me want to learn to get better. And then it's like same thing with like the earliest thing I remember was like I watched the Lord of the Rings like behind the scenes a lot when I was younger, and
Yeah.
just being able to see the process of how they made all the stuff in the movie, like all the concept art. That's what made me want to like go into art as a career. And it's like even from like just like I guess like a marketing standpoint, if you want to sell like merchandise for something, make them
Mm-hmm.
look cool. Like people don't need to know, kids don't need to know what the story is about to see like, oh, that's a cool toy, I want to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And like and one that really like that example that really sticks out to me is like um the game Genshin Impact and League of Legends. I really don't like playing them, but I really like the way the characters look, and it makes me want to play the games, even though I hate playing those games.
So before we go too far forward, why don't you explain for the folks out at home what is character design and like concept art and like this whole entire kind of area of your focus for your passion?
So concept art and character design is the basically the process before making something, of trying to figure out what you want a certain character, building, whatever to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And usually what you do is you spend like hours on hours of drawing like hundreds of different sketches of just random things, like getting feedback from the director or whoever. It's like, I want them to look like this, draw them with this. So you go through all these different versions until eventually you come upon the very final product, which is the one that you see in either the game, film, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a whole like it's a long process, and a lot of the times the thing that is being drawn or what you see at the end is very different from what you saw at the very or what the original design was. And then more often, like a lot recently, a lot of things like Star Wars, they're going back to like the old concept art for the original trilogy and using that in the newer shows. So it's like it's
Hmm.
still there, it's still being used.
Wow, that's so cool. So you got started by just being introduced to seeing Predator at age 6.
Yeah,
Also, before you go too far, a little young.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, that was the thing. Like it was on TV, and I was just like at my grandparents' house. I was like, "Oh, this looks cool. I'm gonna watch it." And I saw that like the back
yeah.
half of the movie, So I was like,
No,
this is
totally.
yeah,
I think I saw Jaws at like the enough scenes to make me horrified of ever going near water when I was like 7 or 8. So I totally get you.
yeah.
So you started drawing that, not even knowing about concept artists or anything like that. When did you first find out about like concept artists being a thing that was a potential career or a path for you to kind of go towards?
I think maybe around the age of like 10, I want to say maybe like middle school, or whenever I was in middle school. Like I was drawing for a while, like before then,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like maybe around middle school where I was like, I could do something. Like I want to do something with this. Like either, maybe I could go into comic book drawing or whatever. And then at that time I was finally old enough to understand what I was watching when I saw the like behind the scenes of movies and stuff.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, this is what this is all in the back. I'm like, okay, there actually is a use for this, and like that made me want to pursue that more.
That's so cool. So what steps did you take from there to continue to like follow that? Obviously you kept drawing, but was there like did you look for specific colleges, or like what was it that like what else did that kind of like make you choose path-wise moving forward to like follow this passion even further?
Aside from drawing more, I learned I started learning more animation stuff because just getting good at drawing things in motion kind of eventually led to me, wanting to animate it to make it look like I want to make something out of it other than just static drawings.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started pursuing. I got a degree in film because I wanted to do concept art for film. So having all the extra knowledge for the industry helped. And then
Mm-hmm.
also video game design, learned some about graphic design, stuff like that. And it just kind of all meshed together to like this one big, like now I have all these skills that I could use to get into multiple industries. Like I'm not just limited to uh, concept art. I could do graphic design. I could do animation. I could do all work for both film or video game industries with what I've learned. Kind of just gave me more options.
That's awesome. Would you say that do you have a preference if randomly you got to choose between the two? Let's say both of your favorite companies hit you back, and one of them was like, "Hey, we want you to come do concept art for this like awesome video game franchise." The other one was like, "Hey, we're like making this movie, and we want you to create the monster or whatever." Like what? Do you have a druther there?
Uh, I think it depends on the company. Because like if you work for like Disney, people who work for Disney move around a lot between all their different projects, so you got
Mm-hmm.
more work to do. Like if I have a chance to work on Star Wars, I want to work on Star Wars, obviously. Like I grew up watching Star Wars, so it'd be a dream come true to work on that. But I think video games are a little more interesting because there's more interactivity between I guess the consumer and the game itself instead of just like
Yeah.
watching it. Like all the games that have different like customization options, like Skyrim and stuff, there's a lot more to work with, I guess. And it would be nice to feel like being able to like walk around in a game that I had a hand in designing. It's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I remember designing that. I drew that. That was me. It'd be cool to see that.
Yeah. Is there a big misconception about concept art by the wider world that you'd like to, kind of rectify, at least for the listeners of the show?
Um, I don't know if it's a big misconception, but just generally, when I went to school when I was learning, not a lot of people in my major knew what I was talking about, what I wanted to do. Like I
Mm-hmm.
met maybe like one other person who wanted to do concept art too, and it was kind of hard just figuring out like what do I study for this? Do I study art? Do I study film?
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of the big question I had for a long time, where I wasn't really sure what I should have been studying, and it wasn't until like maybe like a semester later where I was like, okay, I can start using all this stuff does come into play in the career.
Yeah. Because it is like you're saying, it is like you're not sure between like going to like art as your major or film as your major because it is kind of like in between, right? It's basically
Yeah. It
art that's used for film.
exactly. Like it was
Yeah.
it was weird trying to decide like what do I study exactly?
Hmm.
And then a lot of people didn't understand when I would talk about it. Like even when I was talking to my family, they would be like, "Oh, what are you going to school for?" I just say film because I don't think none of them really understand what concept art is. So I just
Yeah.
say stuff like that, shorten the answer.
What's your favorite non-obvious aspect about concept art that you'd like to kind of blow our collective minds with?
Um, just because there isn't like you don't need words to tell a story. Like if you have a
Mm.
good design, you could tell like a story in itself just by looking at it. Like if there's like a certain like piece of armor on someone, it's like, oh, how did he get like this? What fights has he gone through? And then it's like there's all this like it's more I guess subtle. Like it's more of
Hmm.
a subtle way of storytelling, in my opinion. I guess I don't know, but yeah. And then also like another one's like a lot of the characters you see they don't start off that way exactly. There's a good amount of variation and change between what you see and what they originally looked like,
Mm.
and some people don't really realize that.
Do you think it's that people don't see it or that they can't put it to words but they feel it?
I think it might be just not seeing it because I know more and
Mm.
more things are showing the behind the scenes, and with online sharing, digital like artists sharing their stuff is more out there. It's easier to access. It's just like
Hmm.
before then, there was no real easy way to access this behind the scenes stuff for games and films.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I think almost every game now publishes like an art book for everything.
Yeah.
Most films have behind the scenes videos somewhere online. So I think yeah, it's becoming more common. Like I think, or it's more people are knowing about it. But before it's like I don't know. I think yeah, it was probably just not knowing or not being able to see it.
Hmm. That is really interesting, right? Because like for me, it's one of those things that I don't. There's films that I've seen it in, and I can't place it. My mind is like really blank today. I'm sorry, but where you'll see a character in the beginning, and by the end, if you asked me, if you gave me like a multiple choice thing of like, you know, has this ordeal worn on this character? I would say yes, but like, I wouldn't have thought to say it, but in like deep down, I knew it,
Hmm.
and it is because of that's like one of those like, art design things is you see that like, oh yeah, that character's shield is like got lot more wear on it than it did in the beginning. Like in the beginning, it was shiny. Now it's like dull and all scratched up because of the
Yeah,
fights they've been in. And that's like one of those things I think you were talking about earlier, where it's like art does itself tell a story
yeah.
by just like itself just existing in an order.
It's
Like it tells a tale.
it's the small details that add to the bigger picture. It's like these little things that you might not think about. It's like, oh yeah, this gets more worn out over time, or it's like things change, like his gear is evolving or whatever. It's small things that adds to it that
Yeah.
I like.
This is something similar but not the exact same. This is one that I recently saw that I didn't even realize, but I once it was said it was like, "Oh yeah, that totally is the case." And I knew the result of it, but I didn't know how it went about. So in the original Mulan, not that new fucking garbage.
I still haven't
In the
watched that
original
one.
animated feature, it doesn't exist. I don't know why I even bothered mentioning anything that's totally fictitious. In the animated feature Mulan, there are many musical numbers.
Mm.
However, they all are in the first like half, three-fifths of the movie. Once they get to the top of the mountain and they find the village destroyed, the leader's dad is clearly dead along with the rest of the Chinese army, and she finds the doll in the burnt hut. At that moment, there is never a song for the rest of the movie that is sung by the characters. This was an intentional thought by the director and the creators because they wanted it to have a tonal shift. And it's one of those things you don't realize unless you're like, a filmmaker are paying a lot of attention to things that aren't the story, in which case the filmmakers do a bad job. But like you don't realize it, but you feel it.
Yeah.
Because from that point on, it's a different kind of film. Before that, it's very jovial, very fun,
And then it becomes a war
kind
movie.
of coming of age, like, yeah, like, and then it becomes this war film, and it's very dark and very, gritty.
Yeah.
And like, it would be out of, it would be really weird if they started like singing again together, like jovially. It's like, yeah, it wouldn't make sense. And it's the same kind of thing that you're talking about with art design. It's just like, you don't realize, that this character now has more scars on his face than when you first saw him.
Yeah.
But you can see that his life has been harder and that's taken a harder toll on him. You don't realize why you know that, but you do know that you know that.
Yeah. It's like if you're transitioning from like one setting that's all bright, sunny, and it's like, okay, everything's happy here, and then it slowly starts getting darker and darker, or you go into like creepy woods or anything, you realize, like, okay, now something's gonna happen.
Mhm.
It's all part of it.
Yeah. Before we move on, what would be do you have like a first couple draft picks? So you were talking about Star Wars earlier. Do you have like a top three draft picks of what companies or franchises you'd like to work for?
Yeah. So Lucasfilm, because a lot of what I draw is mostly sci-fi themed, and Star Wars has been a
Hmm.
big part of influencing me to do that. Lucasfilm, uh, maybe Bethesda. I really like their games. They also have a good variety of both sci-fi and fantasy stuff. And
Bethesda is the company that did Gears of War,
Skyrim, the ones who released
Skyrim.
Skyrim 5 times. Yeah. And then 343, because they're the guys who made Halo, and that's been a large part of my life for a long
Mm,
time.
sweet. Well, I hope that you get to make headway and work for one or all of those companies. But before that happens, Carson, we need to know, what is your preposterous peeve?
I really hate gnomes. Like I have a compulsive need to like if I see a gnome, I want to break it. It's like one, I think they look kind of dumb, and then two, like I played a game a few years back called Fable 3, and in that game they had cursed gnomes that you had to like go around the entire map to like destroy and collect, and the only way you would know they were there is that they would start insulting you very badly. They'd be really stupid insults. But by the time I got all of them, it just conditioned me to like destroy on sight gnomes, and that just
Gnome
kind of
equals
stuck with me.
destroy.
Yeah, and like, and so my family members tease me about this too. Like, they got me a book where it's like what to do when garter gnomes attack. I'm like, God damn it! And it's stupid because like I know it's like gnomes aren't gonna come live. They're not gonna talk shit to me. But it's like I don't know.
But when they do.
When they do, I'm ready. I will throw that thing out the window.
Have you ever accosted someone else's garden gnome when like walking by because you just couldn't hold back the rage?
Surprisingly, no, because I don't think anyone ever has garden gnomes anymore. Like I've seen them in like,
Wisely. I mean, they know you live around them. Why would they?
yeah,
It's just foolish behavior.
the gnomes are actually alive and they're afraid of me.
The
But yeah,
gnomes know what's up.
yeah. Like I only ever see them in like gardening stores, and obviously I can't destroy them in a gardening store. So
Otherwise, you'd have to pay for it, and then
exactly,
the gnomes win.
yeah, they win. But yeah, I don't think I've actually ever like now that I think about it, I don't think I've really ever seen a gnome in someone's lawn in real life.
Have Have you ever played D&D?
Yes, yeah.
Have you ever had a gnome in your party that lived?
I threw him at a dragon. Yeah, I used him as a projectile. It worked.
What did your teammate think of said occurrence?
I was able to phrase it in a way where he thought it was like, "Oh, I'm getting you to the dragon so you could stab it. This is to help you. This is to help me help you. Let me throw you." In reality, it was just me trying to get him eaten. But yeah,
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Fable 3, for angering this man and perpetually making him.
PTSD against gnomes.
Yeah. Whew. And with that, we're going to head to our second ad break. But don't go anywhere, because when we get back, Carson is going to enter the lightning round. See you in a bit. Have you ran out of new stuff to do, rendering your life wholly unsatisfying? Do you have too much time on hand and have no idea what to do with it? Or are you just plain over this existence and wish for a plane with more intrigue? Might I introduce you to Addiction? Addiction deals with all these problems and more. Had to meet your significant other's parents and would rather not? Addiction. Had to go to work for the third day in a row? Addiction. Rent? Why not? Addiction. Addiction cannot be held responsible for your choice of choosing to imbibe in addiction. Any and all life-destroying fallout as a result of addiction cannot be legally pinned on addiction. But you're more than welcome to try. And we are back. Carson, are you ready to enter the lightning round?
Lightning round?
Yep, I am ready.
All right, put however much time it takes to bake this cookie on the clock. Carson, is there a god?
No.
Shakira's voice in Danny DeVito's body or Danny DeVito's voice in Shakira's body?
Danny DeVito and Shakira.
Have you ever paid more for a meal than you made in a week?
Yes.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Probably something terrible.
Would you rather give up cheese or naps?
Cheese.
Are hot dogs sandwiches?
Yes.
No one's looking. Do you put the cart back or leave it in the parking lot?
Leave in the parking lot.
If you had the power to see the future but couldn't change it, would you use it?
Yeah.
Pineapple and pizza or fist fight?
Fist fight.
Kill the spider or get an adult?
Kill the spider.
Is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
No.
Kanye.
Just Kanye?
Kanye.
Okay.
Yay or nay? Kanye.
Oh, yay.
Which one of your parents settled?
My mom?
Which do you max out first? Intelligence, charisma, or strength?
Intelligence.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
Yes.
Are we alone in the universe?
No.
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
Gilbert Godfrey.
Are Cheez-Its addicting?
No.
Lions, tigers, or bears?
Tigers.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Dishes.
Is Marvel overrated?
Yes.
Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
100 duck-sized horses.
Would 16-year-old you be proud of where you are today?
Yes.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
Create.
If you have to only have one for the rest of your life, which would you choose, rice or pasta?
Rice.
Is the internet a net positive for mankind?
Yes.
Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1-hour time limit?
Yes.
Congratulations, you've survived.
The lightning round.
But before we move on to your prize, myself, and likely many of the listeners at home, would like to know, what is your favorite food that you could eat 37 of for $5,000 in a 1-hour time limit?
Chicken wings. Like buffalo wings.
Respect. What
With the
lightning round
bone.
question would you...
With the bone.
With the bone.
With the bone.
Ranch or blue cheese?
I don't need it.
Wow, gangsta over here. So, the prize that you have won, good sir, is what lightning round question would you like to ask me, and in turn be asked of future guests?
If you could put your brain in a robot body, would you do it?
First, but I'm not supposed to, so I'll say no. So I don't trust change as much as I should.
Okay.
Would you?
Yes, I would.
Okay, so query question before we move on about this. My answer's already locked in, sad as it may end up being. The robot body, can I still eat while in the robot body?
No.
Oh man, it's a big suck. Do I get to feel all parts of my body, or am I just like effectively in a mech suit looking out, feeling nothing except emotion via my brain?
You could feel.
Okay. There's a question I'm going to ask off air. um, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
I have a feeling I know what this question is.
So does the rest of everybody else at home. I still don't feel comfortable saying it recorded. Call me posh, call me a prude. I ain't saying that shit. It's rude. All right. Anything you want to plug, recommend, places people can find you or your content?
Yeah, so you could find me on Instagram and Twitch at Shad0W, 5 part and 07. Yeah, no, it doesn't roll off the tongue.
Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
Just smooth.
To be fair, I did come up with a name when I was in middle school, so yeah.
Yeah. Mine's not that much better, and I came up with it when I was in high school. So that's fair. All right, man. Well, thank you for being my guest today, Carson. And special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Of course, man. Thank you, yes, you listening at home or wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on Soundcloud, YouTube, and Spotify at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeps Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our first Patreon patron, Sabella Yellow. And if you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeps Podcast. And remember, folks, if you park in a driveway and drive in a parkway, then what do you do with a shuttlecock? Ciao.